So the first category is add/subtract complex numbers. So let's all click on the first one. And remember, you have the exact same problems as me for this. You just need to pay attention to which number we have together. Okay, and so for this first one, make sure you're on the same one as me. We are going to simplify the expression to a plus bi form. I think you guys can probably already somewhat guess how this is going to work, but I will just clarify for you. Remember, a complex number has the real portion, and then it has the imaginary portion. Imaginary is where there's the I for imaginary, and remember, just I is the square root of -1. Just remember that, just a little quick refresher. So when you're combining these, you just want to combine the real portions first. So we have a 7, and we have a plus 12. So 7 plus 12 gives us 19. And then you take the imaginary portions and you combine those together. So we have a 10i positive, and then we're going to add -7i. So 10i minus 7i. So 10i minus 7i, that would be 3i. So our final answer would be 19 plus 3i. Are there any questions? Okay, so 19 plus 3i. And remember, for the letter I, you can use the Delta Maths keyboard to type I, or you can just use your keyboard and press the I button. It's probably a lot faster than trying to navigate Delta Maths keyboard. So 19 plus 3i. And let's go to the next one. So same thing. We want to first combine our real portions. So it's the 5, and it's a plus, a -6. So what is 5 plus -6? That gives us -1. When you add a negative, it's really just subtracting. So it's 5 minus 6, which gives us -1. Then we want to combine the imaginary portions, so the portions with I. So we have a -6i plus a -5i. You're adding two negatives, the answer will be even more negative. So this gives us a total of -11i. -6 and -5, when you add it together, gives you -11. So we have -11i. -1 minus 11i. All right, I'm going to submit this. This is the second one. So now we've gotten 2 correct. Let's go on to the third problem. So remember, it will be marked right or wrong depending on if you have the same problem as me. So just double check all the time to make sure you are on the same exact problem as me. Let me screenshot this. So for this third problem, we are going to once again combine the real portions and then combine the imaginary portions. Let's start with the real. So we have -9 plus a -2. Once again, 2 negatives added together will be even more negative. This is -11. So -9 minus 2 is -11. Then let's do our imaginary problems. We have -7i plus +6i. So -7i plus +6i. So that would be a negative and a positive. So this is actually -1i. So -7 plus 6 will give you -1. So I wrote -1i. However, you can also just write it as -i, because minusing 1i is the same thing as just minusing I. I don't have to write the 1. It's like you don't write 1x, you just write x. So this is -11 minus I. -11 minus I. Okay, was that all of our add subtract? No, there's 3 more add subtract complex numbers. So now let's move on to the fourth problem. So now we are subtracting some. Let's start with our real portion, just as we have been. So the real portion is the parts without the I in it. So we have 12 minus 4. 12 minus 4 will give us +8. Then we combine the imaginary portions. We have a -7i minus -5i. let me just write that out. Negative 7i minus negative 5i. I'm writing it out because there's so many negatives that I just want to clarify. When you are subtracting a negative, right over here, subtracting the negative, that's the same thing as adding. So you can essentially write it as adding. So negative 7i plus 5i, and that would end up being negative 2i. So it's 8 minus 2i. So once again, when you subtract a negative, it becomes adding. So that's why I have it right here as negative 7 plus 5i, because we subtracted the negative 5i. Subtracting a negative is adding the positive. So that's how we got minus 2i at the end. Eight minus 2i. Oh, I didn't submit. I've already submitted this. Oh, sometimes that happens. Let me refresh it. There you go. I don't know why it didn't show it was correct in the beginning, but as you can see, it is correct. It just had a loading problem, probably my internet. All right, let's go to another example. So another subtraction, but hopefully you guys are getting the hang of it now. So once again, the real portion, we have a negative 4 minus negative 6. I'm just going to write that out. Negative 4 minus negative 6. We are once again subtracting a negative number. So this is really negative 4 plus 6, which gives us 2. So negative 4 minus negative 6 gives us 2. Now let's do our imaginary portions. We have a negative 8i minus 9i. And so this is a negative, and then you're going even more negative because you're subtracting from it. So this will give us minus 17i. Any question on this one? 2 minus 17i. Okay, and then how many more do we have? Why did it load there? Give me a second. Okay, we have one more for the add, subtract complex numbers. So this will be our last example for this section. So let's combine our real portions. Remember, the real portions is the parts without the I on it. So we have a negative 2 minus a negative 5. So once again, we are subtracting a negative. That means we're adding it. Negative 2 plus 5 gives us 3. Let's do our imaginary problems now. 5i minus 8i. So 5i minus positive 8i, that just gives us minus 3i. Okay, now I'm going to submit. And that's good. So that's it for this add and subtract complex numbers section, and then we'll do the next videos right after.